Welcome to the Cleric Corner, where we tap into our higher powers to create worlds that are more unique and stories that are more impactful. These video segments is something that I'm actually really excited to do because one of my favorite Dungeons & Dragons idols, Matthew Colville, some of you might have heard of him, created a long time ago diaries or segments, explanation of his campaign that he ran for his players. Now, I find myself in a very similar situation where I have this campaign that I want to share with you guys, but I don't necessarily have the means to do long form or to stream it like some people do, but also just a personal log where I can then look back on the progress and the things that I learned as I continue dungeon mastering. And just like the famous Matt Colville would do, is we kind of go into the sessions looking for the things that we can learn from, take from, get better, grow from, really just put the decisions that we make under a microscope. And by all means, I'm not saying that I'm a good dungeon master at all, but hey, maybe by putting something out there, some other people can learn from it too. And obviously, if you would do things a little bit different, I welcome the comments and the questions. Obviously, add those down below. Now, a little background on the campaign. I do something special with my campaigns that I'm not sure a lot of people do. However, when I start a campaign, I don't create the world before I meet the players, and I don't create the world before the players create their characters. In fact, the whole creation of the world, to me, should be very collaborative with the players in mind. So in my session 0, I actually had all of us sit down, discuss the elements of play that we wanted to, and possibly the themes that we want to explore, some of which were city and intrigue, pirates and seafaring, gods and hell, alien invasion, post-apocalyptic scene, and the list goes on and on. But they ultimately chose seafaring and pirates because it's something that they never played before and we're super excited to jump into. So we decided to go from there, and so they created their characters, and then I created a world based on what we decided. So as for the characters, I'm actually going to look off screen here because I want to make sure that I get them all right. But first of all, we have Ginzé, the Warforged Hexblade Warlock. Then we have another Warlock multi-class with Monk, the Fathomless. And this character doesn't have a lineage or doesn't know what it is, using the custom lineage rules in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. He decided to let that up to me, which I am super excited about and can't wait for that to come up in the future of the campaign. So thirdly, we have the half-elf rogue Swashbuckler named Ratlin. Oh, and the monk's name was Kayakai. Tokoko is our Tortle Druid of the Land. And then lastly, Theric is our Elf Artificer Battlesmith. So, having been a while since I've actually DM'd, it's been a couple of years. I've played since then, but actually being a DM, it's been a little bit. I made the mistake of over-preparing, and I think a lot of us DMs, even long-term DMs, kind of make the mistake of over-preparing at the beginning of a campaign, because we don't exactly know where they're gonna go. So I made like 15 different paths on the choices they could make and the things that they could do, and there was one overarching one. However, I wanted to be sure to cross all my T's and dot all my I's. But I think you realize that anybody that's coming in to play Dungeons & Dragons are very excited to play Dungeons & Dragons, so they're going to hook onto any first hook that you really throw at them. So I really had to only prepare one. But our story starts on a little Tortle Island called the Island of Sool, which is known for its ginormous animals, specifically on one side of the island for reasons. So besides from the Tortle character that was a resident there, everyone else kind of came aboard a fishing trading ship for a number of different reasons, landing here for a couple of days. Now, the whole purpose of this ship docking in port was to collect the trade of the giant fish that they have on the island. And a big part of what the village does is they take their giant carts, they go up to the freshwater pools up in the mountain to fish these giant fish. And this was the main hook that I was hoping that they would catch on to. And thankfully they did right out of the gate. So each of them kind of grouped up, grabbed a cart, and started trekking up the mountain. But before they left, obviously adventurers need supplies, so they went around town finding different armories and food markets and other things that they can take on their journey. Even partaking some of the local fruit called knicker fruit, which is kind of like a mango with a little nicotine in it, if you like that sort of thing. But one player did something that I thoroughly enjoy. And I think most players, when they first start out, are kind of nervous to start role-playing or improv. But as another character was asking about some possible supplies that we could get, the resident Tortle character, or player character, chimed in and said, yes, I know this one guy, he's a human, he's just right outside the gates. And I had no plans of this character whatsoever, but since he was a resident there, it made sense that he knew somebody. And so, right off the cuff, I created a little tinkerer's hut just outside of the city with a person or human named Mike that ran the shop called Mike's Emporium. And he talked a little like this, and he didn't like the company, and he gave them some worms to fish and sent them on their way. Now, is this where Mike's story ends? Absolutely not. He'll come up later in a few episodes. But from there, they took their trek out to the mountain where they needed to walk down the beach to a specific point in the forest. And they chose to go the more dangerous but fast way instead of the long but easy way. Of course, they're adventurers. So they had to cross some muddy pits before they got to the mountain. Through this journey, they fought giant crabs on the beach where one just couldn't let crab meat go, fighting 3 giant crabs and getting about 50 pounds worth of crab meat to put in their cart. And then also making 5 mud mephits mad in the mud swamps when they refused to share said meat. And then trailing a hungry jaguar the entire way. All of these fights obviously very avoidable, but I think making encounters and getting into encounters is fun when there's a choice to opt out, even though like 100% of the time they'll choose to draw their sword. But it creates good drama. And the session ends with them almost falling down the mountain due to the weight of the crab meat, but rolling safely into the black sands of the basalt pools at the peak of the mountain. So tune in next time to see what will happen to our adventurers. And let me know how some of you have started your campaigns. But in the meantime, go out there and spread the good word of D&D to make a better world on your table and off of it. Amen.